We've been talking about finding equations of lines. I would like to look at how we can use that idea to help us estimate an answer using in some applied problem. Here in this problem we're talking about the number of daily newspapers. We're given 2 years, 98. There were 1,509 daily newspapers. By 2006 that was down to 1,453. And we want to come up with an equation. A lot of times you'll find in these word problems that we're going to want to restrict ourselves. In this problem we're very specifically asked to restrict ourselves so that x is the number of years after 1998. That's what we're getting when we say years after 98, and y here is the number of newspapers. I really encourage you to actually write that out. These are the number of different newspapers across the country. And they want us to write 2 points. So we need to take the information that we are given, 1998, 1,509 newspapers. Well, 1998 would correspond to x being 0. So 0, there were 1,509 newspapers. Continuing on, in 2006, which would be 8 years after 98, so x equals 8, there were 1,453. So in 2006, which was 8 years later, there were 1,453 papers. And that's what we want to do in part A. We write the ordered pairs in the form years, number of papers. Now we're asked to find the equation. They tell us to assume it's linear. Okay. So we have 2 points. Now we can forget that it's a word problem for a little bit and just say, okay, we want to find the equation of the line that goes through those 2 points. So we use our slope formula first to find the slope. That would be the difference of the y's over the corresponding difference in the x's. Okay, make sure you keep the order right. So 1,453 minus 1,509. Quick check tells me that's negative 56. And that's over 8. So it turns out we actually get a nice whole number slope here. Don't count on that happening all the time. So we find our slope is negative 7. Now once we know our slope, we can then plug that slope into our formula, just like we've been doing. And then we need to find our y-intercept. Well, you could pick either point, or if you're really paying attention here, realize that by how we've set this problem up, one of those points is actually our y-intercept. That 0, 1509 is our actual y-intercept of our equation. So we know that B has to be 1509. And so our equation of our line then is y equals negative 7x plus 1509. So now we have found our equation. Finally, we want to answer the question here in part C. Use the linear equation to estimate the number of papers in the year 2003. Well, we don't just go into the problem and plug 2003 in. We have to remember that x is the number of years after 98. So when we take that 2003, we have to translate that to the fact that they're telling us x is 5. Then we can go into our equation plug in 5 for x. And we work that out. Negative 7 times 5 is 35, 1509, and 35 will leave us with 1,474 daily papers. Okay, so hopefully this example gives you a nice little starting point for working with some of these applied problems. One of the big things is paying attention to how we're defining our variables and then sticking with those definitions throughout the whole problem.